Hello, thank you for stopping by. I'm so glad you're here. This is going to be a sewing pattern review for Burda 6351. I made view B and I got this really cozy wool jacket that I'm getting a lot of use out of. Here's how this will go. I will give the pattern a rating from 1 to 5 stars based on 3 criteria. We'll be talking about the outside of the pattern. After that, I'll talk about the materials and things I used. Next, we'll be talking about the inside of the pattern, the instructions and the pattern pieces. And I will then talk about any changes I made or specific problems I had. Then I'm going to be giving it a rating 1 to 5 stars based on the fit and the sizing. Was it wonky? Was it straight, exactly how I expected? Stuff like that. Then I will average out the stars from pattern envelope, pattern interior, and fit and sizing. And based on overall impressions and just how I kind of liked the project, I will round up or down. Burda 6351, it is just described as a jacket. It doesn't give you any more details than that. It is fully lined. You wouldn't know that until you start looking through the materials required, but it is fully lined. Starting by looking at the pattern artwork, you've got a high quality photo of a model wearing the finished product, and you've got line drawings. Both excellent. I think it's a very attractive front of the pattern. Definitely makes me want to buy it. I think it looks sort of sleek and modern. I definitely like Burda's styling quite a bit, but we'll talk more about the other things I don't like in a bit here. Moving on to the back of the pattern envelope, it's a bit sparse. You've got a repeat of the style lines from the front here, just a little bit bigger, and it just tells you how much fabric you need for whatever size you want to make, and basic information about fabrics and notions. It doesn't give you any information about the finished sizing, and it doesn't give you an accurate description. So points off for that. For a difficulty level, it tells you that it is advanced difficulty, which is four dots, which is the highest level for Burda, and I concur with that. It definitely is about as complicated as home sewing gets. So for the pattern exterior, front artwork, back information, I'm giving it 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm being generous here. The back information is very sparse, but it's very well presented, and for a men's pattern, it's a nice style that makes me want to buy it, which there are a lot of men's patterns that I just don't really love the style. And it's a nice glossy envelope. Anything that's a little bit glossier and shinier, I like. Let's talk about the fun part now, the materials I used. I just used a Schmetz needle. Medium weight, I forget exactly what it was, but it wasn't too heavy, wasn't too thin, because I had to go through a couple of layers here that were a little bit thicker. I used some brown Gutermann Sew-All thread for construction. I did do a little bit of top stitching with a cheap golden embroidery thread that I had. It wasn't my top choice, but I decided to just go with something that I already had instead of buying a new top stitching thread. So it's a little bit thin for top stitching, but I wanted it to be subtle. I didn't want the top stitching to be like a major decorative feature. So I think it was a good compromise. I used a 28-inch sort of heavy metal zipper from YKK. I got off Amazon. And I sewed this on my Kinmore Model 33, just using a straight stitch, and then I overcast the seams with a zigzag. For the fabric, I used a tan-checked wool, and a faux wool, like fuzzy lining that I got from Vogue Fabrics. It was in the late fall swatch catalog, and they were right there together, and I thought that makes a great combination. This one is technically a knit. It has a little bit of stretch to it, but I used it for a lining anyways, just because it doesn't have a ton of stretch, and it worked pretty well. It was nice and stable and a little bit heftier, and it looks cozy like a sheep's wool lining, but it was much more affordable. And this is it says on the website this is 100% wool, and it's gorgeous. I love it. It wasn't terribly expensive. I forget how much. I'll put that on the screen, but it's a really nice, it's fairly lightweight wool, but it's got a nice feel to it, a nice drape, but it also has enough structure that it sewed up to a nice jacket. For the interfacing, I used this giant roll, 22 yards of medium weight fusible interfacing I got off Amazon a while back. I was trying to be cheap, but I was like, let me take a risk. It works good. I don't know how Kerrigy fusible interfacing would hold up under machine washing, if it would get all wonky. I haven't tested it out yet, but it was much more affordable than like Pellon, so I gave it a try, and it works great for things that I don't have to wash. This will be dry cleaned because this is a real wool. Yeah, all the materials have worked great for this project. Let's move on to talking about the instructions. The instructions were a nightmare, not very helpful. I have enough experience to where I got through it because I knew what needed to be done. No thanks to the instructions. But first of all, let's look at information like finished garment measurements. You just got to dig around on the pattern pieces until you find it. Yeah, here's the cutting layouts that were on one of the pattern pieces. I had to unfold them all and dig around looking for the cutting layouts. Finished garment measurements are around here somewhere. I don't know what happened to them, which is objectively annoying. And after digging through all of the pattern pieces, I found the finished garment measurements again. Annoying. This is so annoying, Burda. I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew that Burda liked to just bury stuff on the pattern pieces and that the cutting layouts, the finished garment measurements would be somewhere amongst the mess of pattern pieces that I had to cut out. I found them, it worked fine, it's annoying. For the written instructions here, they compress them down into the least amount of space possible. They are smushed in here. Now I often complain with other sewing patterns that the French and the Spanish instructions are just sort of off on their own in the back, and there's plenty of space where they could have put them right by the English instructions, right by the drawings. Which, to be fair to Burda, they do here, so I could actually consider that a positive, if only they weren't like so tiny. They leave the entire back of one of the pieces of paper in here. They give you 2 pieces of paper. The entire back of one is blank. They could have spread these instructions out just a bit more and filled up the back here. Especially because most of the instructions are multi-part. Instead of just telling you to do one thing, there'll be like 4 different things listed in that one instruction. Another really annoying thing is the way they alternate between A and B instructions. There's not like one set of instructions for A or one set for B, and it's not clear sometimes which set of instructions you need to be on. There are sort of like subheadings that say whether this is an A or a B or an AB, and then there are numbers, but the numbers just keep going. Like they don't correlate to whether this is step 1 for view B or step 1 for view A. It's just the 24th instruction. Make of that what you will. Beyond that, the instructions themselves are vague and confusing, and sometimes they literally don't make any sense. Case in point, I'm going to be talking about this part of the jacket. Burda's super helpful instructions for attaching the lining to the outer fabric here, where it's just two raw edges against each other. It just says sew them on somehow. I knew how to make it work. I had turned the edges of the sleeve slit under, pressed them, and then slip stitched them down. But why couldn't they tell you to slip stitch it? They didn't say how to sew them on. They just said, make it happen. It needs to be done, but we're not going to give you any specific instructions on how to make that happen. And there are probably 40 other examples of that. I might be exaggerating it a little bit, but 15 to 20 other examples of them saying, make it happen. Very annoying instructions. My instinct was to just take the pattern pieces and go off on my own, assemble it however I felt like. I could have done that just fine, but I wanted it to come out nicely. I did try to follow them as written because I wanted to make a review of it, and I just wanted to give them a really good try. I haven't made a Burda pattern in a really long time, years maybe, since I very first started sewing. So I wanted to come back with more experience and see if some of my issues with the Burda instructions were just my inexperience. And yes, they do get easier with more sewing experience because you know what they're trying to say, not because they're better written. The instructions are not any more clear now than they were when I first started sewing. I just understand what they're trying to do better, so I know how to make it work. That being said, once I figure out what they're trying to say, I do like some of the construction techniques that they use. It's definitely different than the American pattern companies in a lot of ways, and it's definitely not like classic tailoring, but it works. And one area that I think Burda patterns come out really well is with the linings and the facings of jackets. So for this area right here, this is the front facing of the jacket, the waistband, and the lining. I think that always comes out really nice for me with Burda patterns, and this is sort of an area I struggle to get nice and clean, a nice clean finish with on a lot of other patterns. But I always feel that lined Burda jackets come out really nicely for me. I really like their construction process for the vents in the back of the lining that give it a little bit of giveaway, a stretch. I think it looks nice and it's easily done. So I do like the construction techniques that Burda uses, even if I don't like the delivery method of how they present their instructions. I think their patterns are really well drafted. This one, I really like how everything went together. Everything fit correctly. The two-piece sleeves didn't require any gathering to fit in correctly, but they just fit really well. I just feel like gathering the sleeve cap to sort of make it fit is kind of annoying because I know that there are patterns like this one that require zero gathering. You match up the notches, the sleeve cap fits the shoulder perfectly, and it wears well. So I'm not sure what all the sleeve cap gathering is about, but it really bugs me. I think the pattern is very well drafted and I like it, but man, the instructions are a nightmare. So it gets dinged 2 stars for how bad the instructions are, and I think I'm being generous. So much so that I'm going to give it a frowny face too. So it'll be 3 stars plus a frowny face to tell you how much I dislike the instructions, but I still really do love the pattern itself. Moving on to the sizing and fit. Once you dig out the dumb little size chart that's hidden on one of the pattern pieces somewhere, then you have to decipher what is what. It's Burda, so instead of just listing the measurement and then showing the sizes, they've got to give you a number that you have to like reference to like a diagram or like a little whatever. It's just such an overly complicated way of doing this. It's annoying. I made a size 44, and looking through the size chart, everything is slightly smaller than that. Like I made a US size 44, which gives you a 43.5-inch chest. Not sure why it's 43.5, not 44. It's a German sewing pattern. Any sort of European patterns tend to run just a little bit snugger than you would expect, but it is a nice fit. I'm happy with the way the fit and measurements work all around. For the sizing, it does do the European sizes, which is American sizes 34 to 50 chest, which I think is a nice range. I do like that the listed size is true to the garment size. There's not a lot of like vanity sizing with like random tons of extra ease or something. New look. Still upset about that. If you're going to tell me a size, be true to the size. Don't tell me it's a size medium and then give me an extra large. There's no point in that. So for sizing and fit, I think this is where Burda really shines. For me, at least, for my body men's patterns. I think the Burda always fit really well. The sizing is accurate. This ties into the drafting of the pattern as well. But, you know, Burda patterns, sizing, fit, style, I'm always very happy with. So I'm going to be very generous here and give them 5 out of 5 stars. And when I give this Burda pattern 5 out of 5 stars for the sizing and fit, I am thinking specifically about contrasting it with maybe a simplicity pattern where the sizing can be sort of up or down, and the final fit of simplicity patterns is always just sort of a little bit wonky compared to what I wanted it to be. Simplicity patterns tend to be much easier to make, and I think that affects the final fit of the garment, but Burda's a pain in the behind to make, but it also affects the final fit of the garment. All right, let's see. For the final rating, we had 4 out of 5 stars for the pattern envelope. We had 3 out of 5 stars for the instructions and the pattern pieces. We had 5 out of 5 stars for the sizing and fit. That comes up to 12 divided by 3, and we got an average of 4 stars. I don't have to round up or down because it's already an even number, and I'll keep it at that. But I am keeping the frowny face that came with the pattern instructions because the pattern instructions really annoy me. So 4 out of 5 stars with the frowny face. I think that is an accurate measurement of the sewing pattern. Before we finish up, I want to talk real quick about what my next project will be. Simplicity 4703. This is a vintage Western shirt. This is a 38-inch chest, so I will have to do a little bit of alterations to make this a bit roomier, but that shouldn't be terribly difficult. I just think it's an interesting vintage pattern with a cool front yoke to it. So I wanted to give it a try. And for the fabric, I will be using, I just got back from a trip to New York, so I had to stop in at some local fabric stores. And at Mood Fabrics, I got this linen, which I think will make a wonderful Western shirt. I think this is a really cool fabric. I would say it is on the heavier end of lightweight. Like, not quite heavy enough to be medium, but it's not like a tissue weight or anything. I think it'll make a nice sturdy shirt. It has sort of a homespun texture to it. It's just a really cool fabric, and I've been wanting to make a vintage Western shirt for a while. And as soon as I saw this fabric, I knew that it would be perfect for a vintage Western shirt. So that is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have liked the video, please give it a like. If you want to see more, please subscribe. Not to get too YouTubery, but I am close to being monetized on this channel. It's a matter of how many watch hours I have in a 1-year period. So I just need to get the watch hours up a little bit. So please watch as many videos as you can. Rewatch some videos. Thank you so much for every second that you do spend watching my videos. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the future.